All right, we're back here in our series of interviews with Josh Cliffords, the founder of Freewater. So, Josh, let's go and dive right into it. Josh, can you tell me how many Freewater-inspired projects have you seen pop up around the world so far?
I mean, there's, on the conservative end, hundreds, if not more than 1,000. It's hard to know because a lot of people attempt, launch, fail. But I mean, that's how business goes. If you're in the United States, 1 in 1,000 businesses don't go out of business after year one, right? So, but a lot of times people tag us, like people will say, hey, you stole Freewater's idea or whatever, and then I'll find some new company on Instagram or YouTube, and we always try to encourage them and cheer them on by commenting in the comments to help the algorithms. But conservatively, I would say at least 500.
Okay.
And here's one right here. And this is in the United States.
Close to home.
I found it in the refrigerator right here. So,
all right, okay. So let me ask a question. Of all these places around the world you've seen it pop up, which country has surprised you the most with how well this whole model has worked?
so far, I would say, number one, the USA, because that's where we got it off the ground. But I would say India and Pakistan. And I think, as we discussed it in the other ones, I think it's because they just value water more than we do here in the USA. And so when they get that water, it does something even that much more than if you get the water here. Like we were giving away these Mr. Beast waters yesterday, and a girl was really happy to get the Mr. Beast water. I said, hey, do you want to take a few extra bottles? She cried out of happiness. Obviously that's a rare thing because it's Mr. Beast, but free water in America makes people happy. I just think it maybe even makes people happier in a place like India. And it's just easier for them to scale it.
So Freewater has their own fanatics and passion people. All right, so, okay, how about this? We talk about all these different, Freewater-inspired companies. Why do you think it's that some Freewater-inspired projects take off while so many fail?
Again, not every business succeeds, right? And not every entrepreneur is as capable as others. Not everyone has the same resources, money, connections. I'll take the blame on some of it. And why I'll take the blame on some of it is most of them see what I post on social media and they copy that. And what they don't realize is what they see on social media with us just doing stuff in the streets is not the business model. That's just us making commercials for ourselves. And so a lot of people took what isn't the business model and ran with it and made businesses out of it. Some people are finding huge success out of it, but that was never what it was meant to be. And it took me a long time to put together the book that we're about to release. And so I really hope by giving them that playbook, a much larger percentage of people that attempt to enter the industry will succeed.
All right, staying in the same train of thought, what do you think is the most common mistake new projects make when trying to copy your model?
Just what we just said. They just think the model is going out and doing an experiential marketing, meaning like you're on the street, you're canvassing, you're whatever. It's just a lot more work. It's a lot more logistics than like a B2B model where, let's say, McDonald's or Netflix or whoever, they order 10,000 bottles and you just ship it to them straight from the manufacturer and they handle the distribution. That's the most seamless way to move large numbers of units.
Can you think of a project that failed trying to copy you, and what do you think that they could have done differently?
I think that I want to say they should have reached out to me, but they did. I just didn't have the time to help them or the bandwidth. Again, they're just copying what they see on social media, and some of these videos, like we have a video right now that's being pushed out. It's got 3 or 4 million views. You assume that's the business model. Me or whoever going out in the street being like, "Do you want a free water?" and then giving them the pitch, and that's just me making a commercial. And so, big picture, the vision has always been. Like physical brick and mortar, like free stores, free supermarkets, free vending machines, free kiosks where you walk by, you take the free thing, or just getting it right to your house. And so I've spoken about it in the past in long format podcasts, but none of the podcasts I've ever been on have got more than 1,000 or a couple thousand views versus some of these short format TikTok and Instagram videos where someone just like, I can't believe it's free, gets millions, and people assume that that's the business model when it's not.
Do you think maybe there's certain variables that make certain countries or regions a better fit for this model than others?
Which model? The one that they're doing on accident or the one that I want to scale big picture?
I think the more focus on obviously what the book's talking about, why your model is better and how they can eliminate some of the failure things.
I did my best to write the book in a way where it'll scale in any country. You know, you could be in the richest country in the world or the poorest country in the world. You will be able to open up the playbook and kind of like pick and choose, like a Burger King, have it your way Whopper. You'll be able to be like, I really think this is going to work in our niche market. I want to apply that. And then piece by piece by piece, I'm going to grow this. And then they could just take it and run with it and, you know, do it how they feel like it.
Okay, so let me ask you another variable that might affect things. Do you think cultural perception of free, quote unquote, changes the success rate in any way in different parts of the world?
I think for a long time, until people just get accustomed to seeing free vending machines or get things delivered to their house for free, people will be skeptical. Like even right now, distributing these Mr. Beast waters in downtown Austin this whole week, a lot of people say no. And when I ask them why they say no, they say, we don't want to talk about Jesus or religion. And I'm just like, hey, this is not a religious thing. Or other people are just like, are you the Austin serial killer? Are you putting poison in the water? Is there drugs in the water? Like, people just get skeptical of receiving something for free, even though they're on free mobile apps every single day. It just doesn't register to them that this could work in the physical world. So they immediately, like, mentally think like something must be wrong with it, even though this is, you know, a high-end bottle, high-end water, like really premium product. So it's just, you still have to flip that perception, and it's getting flipped because now I would say at least 20% of the people know about us. So like, come and grab the water. Like they know how the model works. They're explaining it to their friends as they walk away. I don't have to explain anymore, but the perception still hasn't fully flipped yet.
Okay, let me shift here something. Referencing something I read in your book, you talked about mini billboards. And how is turning product packaging into mini billboards started changing the way bottles and cartons are designed?
So, especially with plastic bottles, there's some really elaborate shapes sometimes. So it like kind of fits in your hand, right, in a certain way. But this is not good for advertising. Right, you want it to be symmetrical, or even this one. It's a plastic bottle, but these have a drop of nitrogen in it last minute to keep it plump. You know, most plastic bottles, water companies also put a drop of nitrogen in it. They didn't, and so look how that cheapens the ad because it's like triangle shape, right? And I don't want to, you know, it's great, right? Like I'd rather have this because it's free than pay for water any day of the week. I'm just using it as an example. Look how they're not using all of the available real estate, right? And what about all this? They're not using this either. And it's because this bottle has these little ribs here and flat here. And so I don't think ribbed packaging, weird shaped packaging, it's gonna be a thing in the future because it's not good for turning products into billboards.
You know, I wouldn't have thought about that. So let me ask a question. I'm taking a look at that bottle and listen to you talk. So why do you think bottle shapes and materials will change like once packaging is valued as prime ad space?
Let's use like box packaging, like the milk that you don't have to have, you know, like the rectangular boxes of like milk, like almond milk, things like that are like shelf stable, right? They don't have four symmetrical sides. I think that in the future, products are gonna, if it's like square rectangular shape, they're gonna be more four symmetrical sides so they can more easily chop up the real estate and ad space. And you're just gonna see things change. I mean, well, here's like a disinfectant swipe, right? Like this packaging is perfect because it's just a perfect cylinder. But you're going to see the way that they use it differently. And this label right here, you can't print HD quality ads right here. Like it's a cheaper, it's a less glossy. You couldn't put a magazine quality ad on this label, on this paper. And so you're gonna see things like this change, so you could turn things into magazine quality artwork every time.
Okay, so let's even go farther back in this process. We're seeing an end product there, but let me go back to the source. How do you think individualized ad printing is going to affect the way factories are built and operated?
So right now, everybody's factory, whether it's for this or a can of Coca-Cola or whatever, it's designed for everything to look exactly the same and uniform, right? And so in order to print a targeted ad, there's going to have to be some sort of use of data in the system. So they're gonna have to have smarter systems, number one, but number two, it's gotta slow down a little bit. And what I mean by that is like the typical beer canning line could just pump out so many so quickly, fast. It's gonna have to slow down in order to print that individualized ad and set up that 24-pack right for the perfect person, because sometimes you have something called label breakage. And what I mean by that is it gets applied funny in a weird way, and the label rips and tears. And at the manufacturing level, then you have to like halt the whole thing, and fix the problem, fix the tear. But then this might be an ad just for that one person. So it has to print out that brand new ad just for me or just for you. And so it's kind of, you're gonna have to change the order of the machines in the warehouse. You're gonna have to remove some, put new ones in there. And it's just going to be handled differently because they need to be able to print the highest quality magazine ad that's individualized on everything. And so some machines are going to have to get sped up, some are going to have to get slowed down, some are going to have to be swapped in and out, and a large amount of new types of data sets are going to have to be used to pull this off. And so that's why even like a Coke or Pepsi or Nestle, they're going to have issues breaking into this space because they're not famous for having skunkwork projects or amazing development teams like Google, Microsoft, Facebook. They could actually enter the space much easier because they've got these dev teams, and then they could just apply it to these new types of manufacturing systems.
We talk about throughout in your book, there's talk about micro, macro variables that are synergistic and constantly driving each other back and forth. So do you think this new ad-driven packaging makes manufacturing more local instead of global?
It has to be. The future is free and negatively priced, but the future is local. And what I mean by that is, I'll take all these things, but this plastic bottle, it started out likely as oil from Saudi Arabia, and it got pumped, it got the whole 9 yards. It went on a tanker, it got shipped to China, and then they turned that oil into plastic pellets, these little like BB-like pellets, and then that got shipped, I guess in America where this was manufactured. And then they had to smelt it into a bottle, and then they put water in here, which is now full of microplastics. And then if you look at this supply chain, this to get into my hand might have traveled 20,000 miles or more. So the future is doing as many things as close to the point of distribution as possible, remove all that unnecessary redundancy and mileage, and just do it all local. And in a circular way. Like this bottle could not be recycled and reused, period. This is a little bit better. I think 70 to 80% of these bottles in the USA are recycled and reused, but this is still not as good as reusable glass. Reusable glass is 100% the future of this industry.
All right, I'll use myself as an example. At the end of the day, the bottle is in the hands of the end user, the consumer. So how do you think bottle design is going to evolve to make ads more visible and interactive for end users like myself?
Well, sometimes when you go to the grocery store today, like those really little tiny bottles. Like this is a 500 ml, but like you like the 250s that are like this big. I don't think you're gonna see those anymore because you can't, this is the biggest ad you could put there, and I can't put a brand new Lexus on here or like a BMW and make it look like a professional ad for a business, right? And so I think that certain size packaging is going to disappear. Obviously the shape we already discussed, like the ribs, these things are going to disappear. The caps might evolve, a lot more wider mouth things, because that also gives you the ability for artwork on both sides. Everything's going to be about maximizing the available real estate on the packaging, to giving the paying advertiser the most room to portray their message.
Do you think we'll see a completely new types of packaging created just for ad space use?
100%. In the past, in the early days, my vision was to make like the paper cartons out of 100% hemp, and just to do everything at location A, like grow the hemp indoor vertically at location A, make into the paper at location A, print on it at location A with hemp-based inks. It still has to have a plastic lining in there. Like, it could all come from one plant, but I was kind of over-engineering things. Reusable glass has been around for more than a century, and so I just think that everything's gonna probably go that way whenever possible. But what sucks is in the USA, we don't do reusable glass. I don't know when that changed, but now everything's this like paper thin glass, and literally if you recycle a glass bottle, they just take it and smash it. Like, there's no, it needs to be reused, because even though it's heavy and expensive, every time it gets reused and goes through the circle, the price plummets, right? And once you get it more than 10 times through, it's free. And then eventually more pieces of the supply chain become negatively priced, and that bottle can even pay the manufacturer to use it. It's a weird thing to think about, but this is not free, it's negatively priced because it's free and donates to charity. This bottle was distributed at 110% off. We're increasing that, but every piece of the supply chain will one day become negatively priced too. And so things like reusable glass just make it so much more easier to execute on that. And it's better for the environment, and no microplastics.
There's this evolution in technology and manufacture, obviously, that goes hand in hand. And we're seeing it obviously with conversations about AI. So, staying in this thought process of technology affecting manufacturing and advertising, what role do you think technology like AR and QR codes are going to play in changing the physical design of packaging?
I think it's going to be rare to see any product without a QR code. What was interesting about this ad for Netflix for one of their TV shows is they did not want a QR code. I was shocked because it's like $1 billion company, definitely all about data and analytics, but their marketing director thought that the QR code cheapens the ad. Could be right, could totally be wrong, but it's much more difficult to attach augmented reality to this bottle without the QR code. You could just have this whole picture be the QR code, or the Netflix logo, or their tagline. Like, that could replace the QR code, but then you're gonna have to do some coding, internally to make it happen. And so, yeah, like searches to Google, the QR code is gonna be to the physical product. Like, you go to Google, you put anything into the search, that's the QR code. Right? You could put anything into it and it opens up the entire web for you.
So let's keep on forecasting this future. Do you think in the future will the look of a free product be decided more by advertisers or than the product company itself?
The advertiser, right? If you have a paper company, you can't choose what they print on a flyer. People just print a flyer. Now, I think that free and negatively priced product companies, or even subsidized, like a lot of people go subsidized, I'll make this cheap water and put an ad on it. You're gonna obviously have advertiser guidelines, so someone doesn't put hate speech or whatever. But, sometimes they just don't look that pretty. Like, I consider this a pretty decent ad, but sometimes you might just have a weird hodgepodge of like maybe 6 ads here, and it could kind of look like a newspaper a little bit more. Or sometimes you give an advertiser advice and they just refuse to take it. They've got an idea in their head. Us as the ad medium, I personally think like, okay, they could do it much better, but you got to give the customer what they want sometimes too, and sometimes the waters look a little funky. It just, that's marketing for you, right?
So let's bring this back then to obviously what we're talking about, your book about the free model. How do you think these changes to packaging and manufacturing, how's that going to make the free model even stronger worldwide in your opinion?
When more I don't look at this as a bottle of water. I look at this as an ad medium. This is an ad medium. When more products are streamlined just to be ad mediums, then it's going to be that much cheaper and easier, more accessible to get good packaging that don't have things on it that make it difficult to advertise on. It's just going to make it that much easier for little fish and big fish to do it themselves.
Awesome.